While everyone is talking about PlayStation canceling live service games and news articles are getting put out there and corrected, like this one that talked about Blue Point and Ben staff finding out that their games are canceled at the same time as everybody else, even though it's now basically come out that they knew ahead of time. I think the most important thing here that we need to have conversations about is what solutions PlayStation needs to take to be able to get into the live service industry and still continue to make its single player games. I used to be of the mind that these live service games are bad for business, but apparently majority of gamers are actually playing them, and they do fund single player games because, to be very honest, the majority of gamers are live service game players. Those of us who like single player games, we have to understand that it is a strategic thing for a company that enjoys making single player games like PlayStation to continue to do so as money comes in. 30% from Call of Duty, 30% from all these games don't seem to be enough for their growth because development costs have gone up as much as in some cases 100% or in some cases 133%, depending on the studio and the time to make these games. And I'm doing a comparison from Ghost of Tsushima Sucker Punch and Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac. The difference in development costs from what we know is very different. And even though maybe you could say that the studio that did Ghost of Tsushima Sucker Punch may not be as expensive to run as Insomniac, there is no way you can deny that cost in development has gone up, and that studio would have at least had a development cost or a burn rate that has gone up by a significant percentage amount. So what can PlayStation do? It's very simple. They can develop small games that have small live service followings, co-op multiplayer that players enjoy, like, and they can start to cultivate these particular ecosystems to then grow into something significant. Xbox did this for many years. At the time that they were doing this, the noise from the other side was all trash, trash, trash. But if you listen to the gaming conversation, you will be misled if you thought that this was the case. I'm going to show you a very interesting example with this particular paradigm, and you're going to see what I mean. I'm going to use the Steam Best of 2019 and 2020 and down the road up through 2024 to show you something that I think really does highlight exactly what's going on. In 2019, Halo the Master Chief Collection was released on Steam. This game went on to maintain its ranking in the gold category of grossing games. Now, that basically means nothing to many people, but we did some looking. And some of the games on this particular category here, you can use them to kind of judge and gauge how potentially they rate these games by revenue. For example, Jedi Fallen Order in 2019 had sold about 8 million or 6 million units or so within like a few months. Everybody that was in the Star Wars universe was looking forward to the game. I bought the game, brand new, full price. I was so excited. Even gifted it to a friend of mine on Steam as well. That's how excited I was about the game. And so the game really did well in terms of sales. A game like Devil May Cry, as of 3 years into its launch, had sold somewhere around 6+ million units, while Jedi Survivor, about 2-3 years in, had sold about 10 million units. So my guess is, using these numbers, games that are on this gold list are somewhere around the 10 million mark, maybe on the high end. And then on the low end, a game like Mordhau gave me a little estimate as to about selling 1 million in its first month. So if the game carried that progression and maybe everything tapered off, we're looking at a low end of a few million to 10 million or more at the cap. And then anything that breaks past that 10 million in terms of revenue is going in the platinum list. Now, when you take the Master Chief Collection, I don't know why I want to say Halo Infinite by all means, you'll notice something very interesting. It also comes back the very next year, and not only is it ranking, it then is ranking in the 2020, Steam's best, or highest grossing games. It comes in and it ranks in, I think, this time it's the gold category it ranks in this particular period. Am I correct, or it ranks lower in a different category? Let me see. It's very hard to keep up with this stuff because it continues to. I don't know if you guys know, it automatically, in a sense, resets and randomizes itself as you're looking at it. Sometimes you can scroll up and down and the order would have changed. It's kind of like a living web page at the end of the day. All right, finally found it. It was sitting right here in front of me. It was in the gold category in the very next year. Now, keep in mind that very next year, Sea of Thieves launched 2020. Another thing you have to keep in mind too is a lot of the PlayStation fans were laughing and mocking, games like these, saying these games were trash, these games were this, and these games were that, not realizing that these games built the foundation for the ecosystems and the communities that Xbox has been able to leverage in bringing in live service games. Also, keep in mind that Grounded as well at the time was also in the works when you think about it. But let's move to 2022. 2022 is a very interesting year. There's a lot of Xbox games at this point that are making these lists, but we're not going to touch them. In fact, we're going to now keep tracking, in this case, Sea of Thieves. If you notice, this is Sea of Thieves that came out the previous years, and it now is ranking in the gold category. It then followed suit. Sorry, this is 2021. I'm sorry. It follows suit to 2022, and in 2022, Sea of Thieves is also ranking for, at least at this point now. So it came out 2020, 2021, and then 2022. It's ranking in terms of gross sales, with games like Elder Scrolls Online, which is bringing in 15 million a month since launch or something, according to the reports. It's ranking with 2K22 on Steam. It's ranking with V Rising. V Rising is now known to have sold about 5 million units. I guess we'll see, how that all comes together. But it's very interesting at the end of the day. Then you go to 2023, and a small game like Sea of Thieves then still finds itself ranking in the silver category. So this game is constantly bringing in revenue, and PlayStation is about to get a version of the game which then lands 1 million in sales, and more than likely is bringing in more people as the ecosystem continues to flourish. The idea here is these games, as small as they might be, continuing to foster them and pull in more people into the ecosystems is how PlayStation is, if they wish to, going to be able to get into the live service aspect. Them making a big hit for a live service game is the unlikely reality, but making small titles and being able to start fostering the communities around them, titles like Sea of Thieves, small games like Helldivers 2, again, you see how that basically resulted in something pretty cool, is, in my opinion, how they're probably going to be able to break in. Trying to probably come in with a big, massive game is where I think there's a huge risk. And you can tell that they wanted to leverage the God of War name to make this game out of the Bend Studios. And that probably was something that maybe got really expensive. The Horizon game that's coming out, we don't really know how that's going to land. But I think that their idea of getting these live service games, they need to basically take the approach of bringing small titles and then using those titles to extend communities. They had a really good opportunity with Ghost of Tsushima. The problem is you cannot sustain these small live service games with limited ecosystems. You kind of have to break out of your platform to be able to go ahead and leverage them. And a game like Sea of Thieves really does fit into that particular paradigm and seemingly is doing a good job. And then the other games that Xbox acquired under Bethesda, like Elder Scrolls Online, are also capable of doing that same thing. Add Call of Duty, add Minecraft, and then you're seeing that Xbox has big live service games as well as small live service games in its own coffers. And believe you me, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't even started talking about some small sleepers like Age of Empires. These games, as much as you may look down on them and call them trash or whatever, they are Xbox's means of being very, very revenue heavy on the live service side for what I think is investment that's not close to Spider-Man money or the next Ghost of Yote or Ghost of Tsushima kind of, development investment cost. They're just making these small games that are pulling in people that are continuing to serve. Talk to me in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience. Let me hear your thoughts, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.